stand by. Good day, everyone, and welcome to the UFC 228 conference call. Today's call is being recorded, and at this time, I would like to turn the conference over to UFC Senior Director Dave Lockett. Please go ahead.
Welcome, everyone, to the UFC 228 conference call. UFC 228 takes place next Saturday, September 8th at American Airlines Center in Dallas, Texas. On the call with us today, we will have the four fighters competing in two title bouts taking place at UFC 228. We'll start off the call with UFC flyweight champion, women's flyweight champion Nicco Montana, and number one UFC women's flyweight contender Valentina Shevchenko. 30 minutes from now, we will be joined by UFC welterweight champion Tyron Woodley and the number two UFC welterweight contender Darren Till. Now I'm going to turn things back over to the conference center for questions for Nicco and Valentina.
Certainly. And again, that's star one if you would like to signal for a question at this time. Star one for any questions. Please ensure that your mute function has been disengaged to allow your signal to reach our equipment. Our first call will come from Rodney James Edgar with MMAsoldier.net.
Hey, Nicco, the first question is the most obvious one to me. Looking at the odds that were just published recently, the odds that I looked at currently today have you as a pretty heavy underdog as a champion. I don't know that I've ever seen that before. Does that make you feel any kind of way?
No.
No? Okay. And so in regards to your opponent, I mean, do you feel that was that the matchup that you really, when you won the championship, was that the matchup that you saw that would eventually come together, or you thought that was the most appropriate opponent, or was there anyone else that you had in mind that you were targeting?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Sarge, but that's not the way it happened, so this is what it.
And are you happy? You're happy with the way it turned out? I mean, you got a good opponent with a good reputation, and like I said, obviously the odds makers think highly of her. What are your thoughts on her?
She's a human just like any other person, so she's beatable.
All right, thanks very much.
Mm-hmm.
Valentina, are you?
Thank you.
I'm here, yeah.
And Rodney, go ahead.
I was just going to. Okay. Yeah, so I was going to say, how did the bout agreement come together on your end? Obviously jumping into a title fight, it's a great opportunity for you. You've been in there with the best of the best before. How did you secure this match?
From my side, I'm doing everything to prepare for the fight. I am good, to feel me healthy, to feel me strong, to feel me very good. Now I have very great training camp. I started it long time ago, and now it's we almost on the final line. So feeling exactly good, already almost in weight, so I'm not worrying about weight cut, about nothing. And just wait the time, exact time, Saturday, 8th of September, and how I say every time, not much speak, not much talk before the fight. It's every word what I want to tell, I will tell in the inside of octagon.
Excellent. One more for Valentina. You've been to Dallas, Texas before. Obviously, you were there for the summer press tour. I think their kickoff conference. I think it was last year. How do you like Dallas, Texas? It's a big sports town. This is probably the fourth or fifth time the UFC has gone there to put on a show. They always put on a great event in Dallas. How do you feel about fighting there?
I've been living in Texas for almost 2 years and a half, and I very like the culture of Texas, not in general. Dallas, Houston, Corpus Christi, Austin, every city that we traveled around the Texas it brings their own energy, and every time it's so positive energy, and I'm very happy that next fight will happen exactly in Texas, so just can't wait, and final preparation for the fight.
Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you. And again, that's *1 if you would like to signal for a question at this time. *1 for any questions. Our next call will come from Damon Martin with slowcombat.com. Please go ahead.
Hey everybody, first question is for Nicco. Nicco, this last, 8 or 9 months for you, should have been kind of a celebration. You won the title, you were the first ever women's flyweight champion, but somehow you kind of got painted as a bad guy or a bad girl because you weren't fighting as often as people wanted you to. What has been the toughest part of these past, 8 or 9 months? Just the frustration of not being able to fight, or just the assumptions people were making about you?
None of that. My health was my main issue. After I got off the tech show, I had to deal with a number of health issues. After my fight with Roxy, I was in the boot, same thing, dealing with a chronic bacterial infection, and that's when Valentina chose to pull me out. So everybody thought that I was just hanging out at home when I was literally having a viral infection throughout my entire body, hindering me from spending more than 2 days a week at practice.
And, you fought, some very good competition on the show, but everyone tries to play it off because it was the Ultimate Fighter that somehow, maybe it wasn't, as deep of a fight or whatever the case may be. Do you feel like this is your opportunity to kind of prove yourself as champion and defend the title and, prove you belong there?
No, I've already proven that. I feel like I've already proven that with this fight. After I beat Shevchenko, it's just going to show other people that, and my true people who are inspired by me, that no matter what the odds are, you can still come out successful and victorious.
Awesome. And a couple questions for Valentina. Valentina, you've been in these you've been in a title fight situation before. What is the biggest difference now, having gone through it before with the fight with Amanda? Are you more confident? Are you just, you've gone 5 rounds? What's the biggest difference going into this title fight versus the last one?
The biggest difference is that this time I will fight in my weight class. I will not have fight with some opponent bigger than me, heavier than me, and every time said that I was facing up the opponent in 135. So this time it will be exact same size opponent as me. So I think this is the biggest difference between that time and this time.
And Valentina, you are the favorite in the fight. Obviously, you have the experience. You face a lot of good competition. But what impresses you about Nicco? What you've seen out of her? What impresses you about her game and what she brings into this fight?
Every time I'm preparing for my fight, it doesn't matter who is the opponent and what it will be the fight. I'm preparing on my 100%. So I will be ready for the fight. This fight is same good as I was ready for any fight that I happened. I had so many experience fighting with the different opponents. So I know exactly that new fight is a new fight. You cannot put your feeling and think about, okay, it was like this, now I will feel me the same, exactly the same one. No, new fight is a new history. So it will be new fight with some different opponents, and she has her own style, and I think it will be good fight. It will be good fight, and both of us will try to give a good show for all UFC fans, and this is the most important. I hope that everyone will enjoy the fight, and of course my goal and my everything what for what I'm preparing right now is for the victory and nothing else.
Awesome. Thanks, Valentina.
Thank you.
Our next question will come from Daniel Olea with Zoa Deportiva. Please go ahead.
I only had two questions for Valentina. Valentina, do you think the advantage that fighting Amanda, someone stronger and with higher power than Nicco, is going to be in your favor in this fight?
I say every time that I'm like truly martial artist. I was in martial arts since 5 years old. So all my life I was training, I was fighting, and of course every opponent is different. Everyone there have their own style. For example, when I was preparing to Amanda, I was looking exactly for her style and exactly what I have to do, how I have to manage my distance, and what I have to avoid. Now I'm thinking the same about Nicco. I look her fight. I see. I have like analysis of her movement, and like I say, every fight is very different. Fight is very different. So each opponent they have their own style, and I know exactly that. I know my good sides. I know what I have to do on the fight. I know exactly everything that I have to do, and I will be ready for everything that Nicco will throw up on the fight. So it doesn't matter too much for me. So the most important for me is my preparation and how I will feel on the fight.
And my last question for you, para tus fans en español, ¿qué tan importante crees que sea una victoria tuya de conquistar el título para el MMA femenino? Y un último mensaje para tus fans, no solamente de Perú, sino de toda Latinoamérica que te estarán apoyando.
Esta sería una etapa bastante importante para mí porque yo estuve preparando para esto exactamente hace mucho tiempo y claro que sí, todo lo que quiero es ganar el campeonato y tener el cinturón de UFC. Esto es mi meta que yo siempre tenía desde inicio cuando recién hice mi primera pelea en UFC y entonces estoy desde ahí siempre como paso a paso. Siempre estoy más cerca para mi meta, más y más. También quiero agradecer mucho a todas personas que me están apoyando de Latinoamérica, de todas personas que hablan español. Y sí, de verdad, yo siento ese apoyo bastante y cuando yo veo que todos están como mandándome mensajes de suerte, deseando suerte, entonces esto siempre yo digo que me da una extra motivación y por eso estoy muy agradecida a ellos por eso que hacen para mí.
Gracias, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question will come from Jeffrey Harris with 411 Mania MMA.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for bringing a great card like this to Texas. Really appreciate it. First question for Valentina. This fight will be just over 1 year since your last fight for the UFC title. Fights for the UFC title don't come around very often. So what does it mean to you now to be having another shot at a UFC championship? And how do you have to approach that considering, you lost your first fight for the UFC title and that was a fight you thought you won, and I think a lot of people thought you won that fight as well. So how do you get past that loss to move forward in fighting for a title again?
First of all, I'm very happy that UFC finally decided to create one more weight division for female, for all women. So 125, I think in the future it will be more excited and more interesting to watch weight class of girls. So how I say, a lot of girls, they are going down or going up from 115 and going down from 135 to this weight class, and also from a lot of very talented and very strong girls, they are coming from outside of UFC. So it will be very interesting and very dynamic weight class. So about the last fight, so you say very right. It's passed already like 1 year since the last fight, and I made like all analysis so that I had to make from that fight. So and like the life is it's never end on this point, and I'm continue and I'll trying to make me better to win the next fight, and this is how I am because I'm not in martial arts like few years. I've been in martial arts since like a very young girl. All my life I was training, I was fighting, I was participating in different competitions. So I know exactly how to manage all this and more. I already passed it. I didn't think about that one. It's already stayed in the back past, and I never bring nothing like bad emotions from the past to my future.
And question for Nicco. Earlier you said Valentina is human and she is beatable. Well, I mean, you are right. She has lost for both in MMA and kickboxing. So have her losses in the UFC been a major point of study for you in your camp going into this fight?
No. I plan on her being the best that she can be the night of their fight, so I'm not focusing on how she's losing fights, you know. I'm taking note on what she's good at. I'm taking note at what I'm great at, and then I'll be able to capitalize due to timing.
What do you think, in your own words, what do you think Valentina is good at?
Striking. I think anybody will say that.
Okay. And last question for Valentina. Do you plan on making the nose rose on this fight?
I'm sorry, what?
Will the nose be rose after this fight is over?
So funny, you make me thinking back about that word. You know, I never think about that. Like, I never thought about that since I was like speaking it in the air, and I just plan to do what I have to do. My goal is to win the fight, and doesn't matter what I have to do, and doesn't matter at all for me. I will do it stand up in the ground, in the clinch, in the wrestling. Doesn't matter for me at all. I'm preparing for everything, and just every time I'm saying it, I'm not taking part, and I'm not on all my fights for participation. I'm there only for one reason, to win the fight. And this is my mindset, and this is my goal.
Thank you, Valentina, and thank you, Nicco, and good luck to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move now to Stephen Morocco with MMA Junkie. Please go ahead.
A question for Nicco. We were talking to James Vick last week, and he said he took advantage of his underdog status by betting on himself. With the current odds, it seems like you could win a lot of money. Have you done that, or has your family bet on you?
I don't think we gamble. Most of my family doesn't gamble, and I don't. So, I mean, no.
Would you if you had the extra cash lying around?
Oh, absolutely.
Just out of curiosity. No. Okay. Sorry. So, just out of curiosity, did you end up getting a new apartment after you won the belt?
Oh yeah, definitely moved out of that basement.
How's your life different since you won that title?
Besides moving into a bigger, more spacious place, I think I've been able to shine light onto where I'm from, the Navajo Nation, and kind of all our trials going on. We're a third world country within this country, and we don't get recognized as such. And we think, a lot of people are kind of naive when it comes to our cultures and traditions. And I think that's what's most important in giving me strength and the confidence that I have. And that's why I'm the champion. Not every person who wins a belt is going to be a champion per se, because they're not utilizing advantage of the situation to the best. And I think in this movement, particularly with the indigenous peoples, I've shown that, like I was saying before, no matter how much of an underdog you are, you come out on top, and we're all able to prevail. So that's definitely an analogy in our strength.
Do you enjoy talking about those issues more than talking about the fight necessarily?
Oh, yeah. This fight is so superficial in terms of what the real battles are. There are children out there who don't get the Western culture of just like school, and then they get patronized for it. Or families who just live off the simple necessities of the earth, and they get patronized, and they're getting told that they're living in poverty situations and they're poor, and using those terms are just not at all what we're doing. We're being simple. We're not stripping this earth until it's bare, until there's nothing left, until there's no UFC in the world. Everybody who's a fan of the UFC thinks that this is just how the world works. It's just full of fighters and big-headed ego people, but it's not it. Absolutely not it. And that's not what I'm trying to show and tell the story of when I'm in there fighting these fights. I'm doing it for a purpose, so I can represent somebody and represent a true meaning of being a champion.
Do you think you've made a meaningful impact in the culture?
Yeah, I do. I didn't think it was going to go this far, and I didn't set out for it to be this way, but that's what it is, and I'm happy to be part of it, and I'm happy to be, on top of it, because I feel like with all eyes looking on me for that motivation, it just pushes me more and more to become not even a better fighter per se, but a better person, And in terms of martial arts, that's what it's about. It's all about respect and staying dedicated and showing that through the art of fighting. So definitely all just an analogy of what people can push through when it comes to stepping up to their game.
Do you have any other goals for the Navajo Nation?
Yeah, through fighting, I've been able to create this huge buzz, but I go back home. I've been sick. I was sick this past year, so I wasn't able to go back home as often as I wanted to. But I showed up for my old high school graduations, this year's graduation, and everybody was so amped to see me. And I made it a point to not really tell my accomplishments, because everybody's seen that, but tell about how I was raised in that same similar state and how I am able to get through all these feats and all these doubters, and naysayers. And I just want them to know that, whatever they want to do, they can do. It's totally possible, not just thinking that they're limited because they live on the res, because they don't have running water, because they don't have electricity, because they don't have a vehicle to get to places. So going home and just bringing that inspiration, is something that I'd like to do. As a fighter, we're only, realistically, we're only going to be fighting for a certain amount of time. But as a motivator, there's so many ways to motivate a community and bring up morale, especially when it comes to our traditions, because they're oral traditions. So without anybody talking or sharing those stories, then they're going to be gone. So it's kind of up to us and just next generation to just keep everything alive.
Thank you, Nicco. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Our next question will come from Keith Schillen with the MMATakeover.com. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. My first question is for Valentina. Valentina, you said earlier that you've been training for this moment since you were 5 years old. Looking at the records, you have 3 times as many bouts as Nicco. You have been in more marquee matchups. You're the big betting favorite. Do you feel that in a sense, maybe all the pressure's on you because most people are expecting you to win?
I'm not thinking about this at all because I think more pressure on her because she's holding the belt. She's who's a champion. She has to protect it. I'm come to take this belt, and this is it. She has to be worried more than me because if she loses, she loses. And yes, I've been training all my life, and I'm very proud that my family is like a martial artist family. My older sister Antonina, she's 11-time World Muay Thai champion. My mother, she's president of Kyrgyzstan Muay Thai Federation. I'm very happy that she brought us to this world of martial arts. It gave me like opportunity to know this word and how it's everything works in here because martial arts it's by itself it raised me like a person. It gave me all my education. Martial arts for me not only just like things what I'm doing. It's not only fights that I will do for a certain amount of time and that's it. Forget about this. No, it's my lifestyle. It's my philosophy. It's my way of life. And this is everything for me. I'm doing my martial arts not because of some like different reasons, but the main reason because I enjoy what I'm doing, and I feel me very lucky to be martial artist.
One more question. You mentioned Antonina. Say you win the title. She's been very impressive. She's in your weight class. I know you've already spoken that you will not fight each other. Is there a plan in place if she becomes number one contender and you're the champion? Like, what's the plan?
The plan is right now she get her contract in UFC. She will have her first fight in UFC. So she is just entered to this position, and she has to fight for becoming the number one contender. And I'm pretty sure she will do great, and she will be number one contender for the title. But I can say exactly that I never will fight my sister because it's not something that my mom will want to see us fighting each other.
Sure.
No, we have so many other opponents in this weight class and other weight division. So there is so many possibilities to fight with another girls, and I don't see any reason to fight my sister.
Thank you, Valentina. Over to Nicco. Nicco, last month there was another big underdog, Henry Cejudo. We spoke to him at a conference call. Many fans, many media members kind of overlook him. Obviously, he won the big match. He pulled off the big upset. Do you see something like that and kind of use that as motivation heading into this fight?
Absolutely. Like I said, it's not about labels. It's about heart and will and sacrifices, and I've made them all. So it's not going to be a surprise to me, at the end of that fight, to see that we've been through a battle and then see what the outcome is. But definitely seeing Cejudo, I was there that fight up close and personal, and you could just see the pace, and you could see how much both those fighters were willing to put in that cage, and that was a spectacular fight, and Cejudo came out victorious, and he was the underdog, so that's definitely something that's in my head now.
Yeah, it was a spectacular fight. Your last fight, you fought Roxanne Modafferi. She might be the happiest person on earth. She's smiling at the weigh-ins, shaking hands, smiling up right into the cage. Obviously, the build up to this fight, it seems it's definitely a different mood between you and Valentina. What do you have to do to prepare for the mental side of this fight?
Nothing. I think all the girls, including Roxanne, got to see what my preparation was through the living on the Tough Show, and it was just kind of peace and quiet for me. Being alone and knowing that I have only myself to push myself through those 5-minute rounds is all I need to know. So just getting comfortable with that solitude and centering myself is all the focus I need. So I don't need any other extra build up with when it comes to media. I don't need any extra build up in terms of living not in the present time and moment. So the build-up is kind of not very climactic because I'm a pretty lone wolf when it comes to getting myself in focus. So I feel like I've been ready for this fight for a while, and it's only a matter of time before it happens, September 8th.
And my last question for both of you guys, what's your predictions for the fight?
I'm going to win.
Knockout, submission?
In terms of that?
Yeah, like knockout, submission, anything?
Probably both. I'll probably get a submission and then get a knockout at the same time.
Okay. Valentina, you?
Interesting, like first submissions and knockout. Yeah, it's something very cute. Sometimes dreams, they are every time stay the dreams. But I know for sure it will be a good fight, and everyone will enjoy the fight. I don't have to say any predictions. I'm here like to do my job, to do what I have to do, and take what I have to take.
Thank you, ladies. Good luck to both of you.
Thank you.
And that will conclude our Q&A session for this portion of the call. I'll turn the conference back over to Dave Lockett.
Thank you, everyone, for this first half of the call. We're going to release Valentina and Nicco right now. I just ask you to hold patiently, and we will be getting Tyron Woodley and Darren Till on the line to start the second portion. Ladies, thank you very much. We'll see you in Dallas, and to all the media, just please hold on for a few moments.
And again, please hold. You'll hear music.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for standing by. We are still getting the talent on the line. We will be back underway in just a moment.
Good day, everyone, and welcome back to the UFC 228 conference call. I would now like to turn the conference back over to Dave Lockett. Please go ahead, Dave.
Yes, thank you, everyone, for your patience, and welcome back to the second half of today's UFC 228 conference call. Now with us today are the main event fighters for next Saturday's fight, UFC welterweight champion Tyron Woodley and number 2 contender Darren Till. I'll now turn it back over to the conference center to start the questions.
Certainly. And again, everyone, that's star 1 if you would like to signal for a question, star 1 for any questions. Our first call will come from Keith Schillen with the MMATakeover.com. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much for having me again. My first question is for Darren. Darren, last month you got in a little hot heat when you said that you didn't care about your pregnant wife and your child. Obviously, we all know that was taken out of context. You were misinterpreted. Unfortunately, a lot of fans have turned against you because of that. Do you have anything to say to those fans to kind of try to bring them back?
I mean, I just said what I was feeling in the moment. We from Liverpool, we speak a bit different. I speak with a lot of meaning, and it's just not how it is right now. It's just the only focus is fighting on September 8th. Maybe it did come out wrong, but I'm not apologising or trying to win back any fans. It's just the way it is. Every fighter and people who've been through it know what I meant. My girlfriend, she follows me around 24 hours a day. I see my daughter on the night on FaceTime, so I know what I meant, and people close to me know what I meant. So that's all that matters, really, to be honest.
Darren, a big storyline in this fight is your last fight. You missed weight by 4 pounds. You knew you were going to be asked about it. There was a video came out of you cutting weight. It looked terrible. What changes have you made to make sure that you make weight this time and that you don't kill your body like you did in the last fight?
Just drop me weight earlier. Usually, I'm so experienced. I've cut weight, a bunch of times, and I know how to make weight. And I do leave a lot of weight to cut for the week of the fight. So this time I've got my weight lower. So going into fight week, it's not going to be much of a struggle. That's the plan. We're still on target. We're still on plan. I don't know how many days we're out, but 9 days or something. Everything seems to be going good. My weight is light, so I'm a happy person about my weight.
Tyron was asked this week. He mentioned that if you miss weight, he would not take a fight with Kamaru Usman. Say something happens with Tyron, would you take a fight with him on short notice?
Yeah, I'd take a fight against anybody in any weight division if the UFC offered it. So I said in an interview, I understand why Tyron wouldn't take the fight. As I said, I feel his best attribute is that he's an intelligent champion. He's not a stupid champion. Or, I would accept a fight against anyone, not only Usman, but any fighter they're willing to fight. So, it's just different mindsets. Looking at it, it's just the way it is.
Thank you, Darren. Over the champ, it's been a while since we've seen you in the cage. Welcome back. My first question to you is, in your fights, Tyron, one thing that really stands out is how strong you are, how powerful you punch, how strong your wrestling is. But this is the first time I believe that you were a much smaller fighter in the match. What do you have to do to overcome the size advantage of Darren?
I'm always a shorter fighter. I don't think I'm much smaller than Darren. I think he's a big welterweight, but I fought many guys that were former middleweights. Guys that were supposed to be at welterweight showed up at middleweight. So I think I'm accustomed to fighting guys that are a little bit heavier than me, and definitely guys that are taller than me. I mean, I can only count on one hand the amount of guys I fought that were under 6 foot tall, just given the weight division. So that's not really, the largest part of my game plan to try to dictate what am I going to do about something I can't control. He's taller. So many other fighters I fought.
Okay, and my final question for you, Tyron. Obviously, right now, everything we keep seeing on MMA is super fights. You're got a long title defense run. If you beat Darren, you'd have another one. There was talks before when Michael Bisping was a champ about you moving up to middleweight. Is that still in your view, do you still want to go up to middleweight and try to conquer that?
You know, you just said my opponent was bigger than me, so I got a super fight coming up September 8th, and I think focusing on that and giving your opponent the proper respect is the only way that you can open up any of the doors. You start thinking too far down the road, and then it'll be somebody else wanting to go. So my focus right now is just fighting Darren Till, going out there and putting on a great performance. A fighter that's worthy, of my attention, bringing, true skills to the table. So I think that should be my focus, and we'll talk about any other type of fights after this fight's over with.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. I wish you both luck.
Thank you, Mint.
Thank you. We'll move next to Jeffrey Harris with 411 Mania MMA. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today. So, question for Darren Till. On a scale of 1 to 10, how sick are you of answering questions about your weight and the weight cut going into this fight?
It is what it is, mate. You make a mistake in your job. This is my job, and I made a mistake. I didn't make the weight. There's nobody to blame him. Every question everyone wants to start with, or is sort of comments I've made or weight I haven't made. No one wants to start with the good things. So it's just that's just how the world seems to be nowadays. You just want to talk about the negativity and the adversity, and that's fine by me. You know what I mean? As I've said, when adversity is good or bad, you just have to face it head on. So I'm sick of it, but I just can't wait to make way Friday and stick some things up to some people. A lot of people who are doubting that I'm going to make weight. A lot of people aren't even thinking about the fight. They just make weight. It's like I'm the only fighter who's never made weight in the UFC. So I just can't wait to make weight.
For the champ, Tyron Woodley, before this fight, a fight was booked for an interim welterweight title between Colby Covington and Rafael dos Anjos, a fight you called for the Boo-Boo belt. Do you think this fight getting made pretty much validates everything of what you said about what you called the Boo-Boo title?
I personally prefer, to kind of focus on me and Darren Till, because obviously we fight September 8th. I think this fight is a great style matchup. I think it's two great strikers that are going to face each other. I think this is a fight that fans want to see. That fight was something that was put together. I wasn't involved with it, and for whatever reason, the UFC wanted to put it together, and I'm pretty sure they have their reasons why. I just felt like the contendership of the welterweight division wasn't clear. So now this is the opponent that I'm facing. Excited to fight Darren Till, go out there and put on a great performance, come away with my belt.
Now, Tyron, another thing, I noticed a lot of people are talking about Darren Till's size going into this fight. But, I've noticed throughout your career, you tend to do very well against strikers and kickboxers. So I think on many levels, this matchup style, I think favors you. And I can't think of many fighters like you that Darren has faced throughout his career. Would you agree with that?
I think he faced a few seasoned veterans, and obviously Stephen Thompson is the number one contender. I do think just because of my time in the sport and I got a jump start, I have faced more guys that are similar to him, than he has me. Obviously, every striker is different. Every striker brings different skill set. Every fighter, depending on where they're in their career, have different levels of hunger and how much they want it. I think he obviously wants it. I think he believes he can beat me, and that's enough right there just for me to be motivated on a whole different level to come out there and put on a convincing performance and get him out of there. So it's not my first time fighting the striker. It's not my first time fighting somebody bigger than me. It's not my first time fighting a young talent in a fight that's undefeated. But one thing I've always done is I've always did my homework, and I've always respected my opponent. I've always did the proper prep for him, and that's what I thrive in. That's why I feel like I've done the best. And at this point, I'm in a really great spot. I feel like I've done everything I need to do. I'm excited about it, and we're ready to get it on.
And for Darren, what do you think is the key way to fight Tyron Woodley and make this the fight that you want it to be? And that's my last question. Thank you.
I just think I just think pressure, but like a different type of pressure. Guys think that the pressure Tyron, like, and they did not worry. They tried to give him pressure, but they're not worrying about what he's going to get back because he's counter. He's got powerful hands, but he knows how to counter. So when you're throwing them punches, he's waiting for the counter. So it's it's about getting in and out, making it that type of fight. And it is what it is. That's what it's about. It's about me imposing my will on Tyron, and Tyron imposing his will on me. But I just feel like a different type of pressure, because if you give him the type of pressure that a lot of these other strikers have, they lunge in. You know what I mean, and that's where he gets them at the big counter. So that's what I've seen anyway.
Thank you, gentlemen, and good luck to both of you.
Thanks.
Thank you. We'll move now to Damon Martin with FlowCombat.com. Please go ahead.
Hey guys, first question for Tyron Woodley. Tyron, in the past you've said, training for Wonder Boy and training for a guy like Demian Maia was harder because they're specialists. They're very odd, kind of unique fighters. Obviously Darren Till is an amazing fighter, but was it easier to train for Darren Till than it was for maybe those fighters because he's not as, quote unquote specialized?
I wouldn't say it's easier. Sometimes, us fighters, we get trapped into loving hitting the mitts, and we love to spar, and we love to do those things. And with Demian Maia and Wonder Boy, it forced me in a position where I had to really, really get into the skill set. I had to really learn what they were doing, why they were doing it, and then I had to spar. So I didn't get as much time. This fight, obviously, I'm fighting a guy that has been known to spar a lot, and he fights that way, and it's a very similar training camp that I had when I was first coming up. So it was kind of actually fun and refreshing because I enjoy sparring, to get back in there and get some heavy rounds in there. And it was a different type of training camp where I can actually use more tools and I can actually put myself in different situations that in the past camps it was heavily defensive to jiu-jitsu positions or takedowns or looking for openings, that I had to be a lot more patient. When you're fighting against two guys that are known to be strikers, I think that's going to make the fight a different pace fight.
And Tyron, you've defended your title multiple times now, and I'm sure you've seen the statistics that are out there that, I think the longest reigning champions in the UFC, it's pretty short-lived after Demetrius, lost his belt. It's not easy to hold on to a UFC title. How important is it for you to continue to defend this title and kind of add that part to your legacy? Because I think we've seen even getting to 2 or 3 title defenses is not easy at this level anymore.
Because everybody's well-rounded now. Back in the day, it used to be the wrestler versus the striker, striker versus the grappler, and vice versa. But now we're in a position where you got guys that are great strikers that can defend shots. You got great wrestlers that can throw powerful heads. And also, it's a lot more access to watching film on people. Back in the day, the guy was 10-0, you didn't have no film on him. You saw him when you get in the octagon. So now it's the ability to prepare a little bit smarter. The training techniques are a little bit differently. So with so many different styles, so many different assets and skill sets that are brought to the table, you match Till up with Usman, it might be a different story. You match me up with Wonder Boy, we can see completely different fights just because of the attributes and the skill set. So that's why it's so difficult. I try not to focus on a title run and how many defenses and breaking records. I try to focus on each fight. This is my super fight. This is the biggest fight of my career. I'm in great shape. I had a great training camp. I feel like all the pieces to the pie that we've addressed those issues that we've seen in film, and that's my goal, to go out there and have a great performance. Great performance. If I can focus on that, before you know it, maybe I will rack up, enough title defenses to put me up there.
Yeah. And Tyron, I know everyone has heard you say that, if there is an unfortunate incident fight week, you're not fighting anybody but Darren Till. You can't speak for other fighters, so I don't want to ask you to do that. But is there a certain level of, in your head thinking it's kind of unfair to ask anybody to fight a new opponent on 24 hours notice? Isn't that a little crazy at this level of the game to ask a champion or anybody else to fight somebody new on 24 hours notice? Do you feel like that's a bit of an unfair ask no matter who it is?
If it was basketball and we had the NBA Finals, and say, oh, you know what? Golden State Warriors can't make it today. We're going to throw Cleveland in there. They might be able to do it, but they're not punching each other in the face, and it's not a 6'3" striker versus a 5'10", 5'11" wrestler. That's what you're saying. So I think the mindset, the money, the time, the preparation that goes into preparing for a fighter. I mean, I'm pretty sure Darren Till don't want to prepare to fight me, and then all of a sudden, 2 seconds later, say, okay, you're fighting this guy. So some people want us to be just fighters, and it's not just fighting anymore. It's a business, it's entertainment. I'll fight anybody anytime. If it came down to life or death, I think we all would. I think if I came in, I'd grab your kid's freaking backpack and try to freaking throw him into a car, I think you're going to be willing to fight too, Damon. So I think we don't have to use that same mindset in our sport. We want to be professional. We want to be taken serious. I can't control what's going on. I'm not paying too much into the fact on if he missed weight, if he doesn't make weight, because at the end of the day, that's his responsibility. He's the one who is a fighter, and he has to, do what he has to do for his career. I'm focusing on myself. I'm focusing not so much on making a weight, but I'm focusing on being prepared, and that's where my focus is at. I'm not paying any mind to the Usman conversation. I'm really not paying mind to if he misses or makes weight, because this is a big opportunity, and I would assume that he would want to try to seize the moment and come in at championship weight.
Awesome. Thanks, Tyron. A couple of questions for Darren Till. Darren, you've fought a lot of guys in the UFC, and you've got a lot of experience. And I know this is a mixed martial arts fight. It's not a wrestling match. But Tyron does have, an incredible wrestling background. How confident are you in your wrestling, or should I say your wrestling defense, considering, in your record, you haven't really fought a high-level wrestler, especially at Tyron's level before?
I'm confident. I'm a good wrestler. I don't give myself enough credit for how good of a wrestler I am, like defensively and offensively. Before I got in the UFC, I actually fought some good wrestlers. I fought a guy in Argentina. He'd been to the Olympics, Greco wrestling and that. And another fight is wrestling okay. So I'm extremely confident that we all have holes in our game. People ask me, some fighters, they say, I just know I'm going to win because my all-round game is better. It doesn't work like that. Coming into a fight, certain fighter had his strengths and had his weaknesses. Tyron had his strengths over me, and I have my strengths over him. And that's how the fight's going to play out, to strengths and to weaknesses. But I'm extremely confident with my wrestling, offensively and defensively.
And Darren, you said after the fight over Wonder Boy, you were completely okay if it took you a couple more fights to get to a title shot, but then this kind of came up rather quickly. How familiar were you with Tyron at that point? Like, had you already kind of thought about breaking him down in your head, even when you weren't getting the title fight, or did you just focus on him for the first time, 6 weeks ago, let's say, when they offered you the fight?
No, I focus on every single person in that welterweight division, from top 30 to the number one, to the champion. I've got sights on all of them. So when I was coming up, I knew who Tyron was. I knew who they all were. I know who every single fighter who fights on that welterweight roster is, and middleweight. It's my business to know who they are. It's my business to know what they do, how they fight. That's my job. That is my day-to-day job. So I know exactly who they all are, and especially Tyron, because he's fought a lot longer than me. I was younger when he was fighting in Strikeforce and shit like that, so I know exactly who he is. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and I know who they all are now. It's my job to know.
Awesome. Thanks, Darren. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question will come from Sergio Gomez with Diario MMA. Please go ahead.
The first question is for Tyron Woodley. I'm just going to ask you straight up. Do you feel that the UFC wants Darren Till to beat you?
I feel Darren Till wants to beat me. That's all I need to have in the back of my mind. So, at the end of the day, I can't go and try to guess what's in the minds of everybody that's pulling the strings and everybody that's putting fights together. All I can have what's in my mind. My mind is to be the greatest welterweight of all time. Sometimes they call for you to fight the young, hungry fighter that's coming to try to take what's yours. So that's all I'm really focused on. I really don't have an answer for that question. I think my opponent is very confident in his abilities, and he, honestly and truly, sometimes people get in your face and they say a lot of stuff. As we said, we've seen Kobe Covington talk a lot of stuff, and what happened when he got the opportunity? He bitched out and somebody else fucked up. So that alone right there is enough motivation for me.
All right. Do you think that a win over Till will finally get you the respect that you deserve as a defending champion that has been doing constantly and that has defended the belt many times in a short amount of time?
I'm not concerned. I just know I have to get the win. So the win over Till to me is a victory. It's a victory over a tough opponent, a victory over a complex puzzle, a Rubik's Cube to put together, and that's all it really is. I can't control what people actually think and their perception of me. I can't control that. I've been the greatest prospect in the sport. I've been the greatest athlete in the sport. I've been the boring fighter. I've been the knockout artist. I've been so many different things, but I'm really still the same person. So I can't tell the fans what type of mood to be in that day, what they want to call me. So I'm just going to go out there, do my thing, put on the best show, get the win, and continue my legacy.
All right, man. Thank you. And for Darren, you've been on the spotlight a lot more now preparing for this fight. You just had a media event with in the UFC Performance Institute. Do you feel more pressure now that more eyes are on you?
No, I don't even think about pressure. If I had to deal with pressure, if I had to deal with all that stuff, I shouldn't really be fighting, in my opinion. So to me, 10 million eyes, 10,000 eyes, it doesn't matter. It's still the same fight in my head. So if a guy, it's normal to feel scared, to feel nervous, to get butterflies before a fight. That is normal emotions from a human being. But if you start letting the types of pressure, because there's more people watching, because there's more cameras, because there's more people who want a piece from you, that this is our job. This is our job to fight. So pressure doesn't come into it. If you can't deal with the pressure, fuck fighting off. Go and do something else.
All right. Thank you to both. Good luck on Saturday.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question will come from Ryan Sprague with MyMMAnews.com. Please go ahead.
Thank you, guys. Both of you were mentioning how this fight was kind of focusing more on negative aspects. So let's kind of try and see if we can turn the page on this. I'll start with you, Darren. You mentioned how everybody was saying
thank God for that.
I'm sorry?
I said thank God for that.
Yeah, you mentioned how everybody says that, people took your words out of context. And, so let's try and set the record straight here. Direct question, direct answer. Darren, regardless of the outcome of this fight, do you plan on taking some time off and spending it, with kids and with your girl and just kind of enjoying the moment after the fight?
Yeah, that's what I do every fight. I like to come back to my hotel room after my fight and I don't like to go out partying. I don't like to do anything. I just like to just sit there and just reflect on the weeks that I've had. That it's fucking hard training me, and just reflect on the fight and everything in my life, what I'm doing, and then I go back home, see my friends. When I'm in camp, I don't see no one. I'm not out with friends. I'm not going out to see my family. I'm locked away. I only think about the fight. That's the only thing that matters to me. Then after the fight, everyone gets a piece of that until again. I go and see my mum every weekend. My daughter, she's obviously lives in a different country, and I'm going to see her after this fight. And that's the life of a fighter after the fight. But right now, it's a fucking fight. Few people on this earth can do what we do. So I need to focus on the fight. I don't care about anything else.
Thank you very much, Darren. And finally for Tyron. Tyron, you've been defending your belts and, you've had some time off. Obviously, you've had a lot of fighters who were kind of thrown your way and, you got the fight with Darren Till. Regardless of the outcome here, it's a quick flight from St. Louis to Dallas. Do you plan on spending a few days in Dallas or do you plan on going back up and celebrating with your friends and family in St. Louis?
A lot of my friends and family coming to Dallas, so I'll be able to celebrate with them a little bit there. But my kids normally don't make it to the fight, so I'll be back in St. Louis Friday the next day or so to spend time with them.
And finally, you've been wanting to get a fight back in St. Louis for some time. Is that something that you're going to ask Dana and ask Sean Shelby? Is your next fight be in your hometown of St. Louis?
You know, that's up to the UFC. You know, I think if they come to St. Louis, it would make sense to put me on the card. You know, it's a lot of St. Louis talent. You know, you got Michael Johnson, you got me. You know, even though Robbie Lawler was not from St. Louis, he had a big following there, Matt Hughes. So it got a rich tradition in combat sports. But to be honest, I really don't mind where I fight at. I enjoy fighting in Vegas. It's like my second home when it comes down to fighting. Sometimes it's a blessing in disguise to get away from home. Everybody wants tickets and everybody want to, you know, your attention and it's all these demands and, you know, my kid's going to be there, so I'm going to be ripping and running and driving. So sometimes it's better and I can focus more on fight when I'm fighting outside of St. Louis. So I haven't fought in St. Louis since 2009. And the UFC put another fight on there and they wanted me there. Obviously, I would go out there and put on for my city, but outside of that, it's not like something I'm just beating their door down for.
Outstanding. Best of luck to you, gentlemen. Thank you.
That will conclude today's question and answer session. I'll now turn the conference back over to Dave Lockett. Please go ahead, sir.
Yes, thank you. And first, I'd like to thank Tyron and Darren for taking time on today's call, as well as all the media who participated. We're looking forward to a great fight next Saturday in Dallas, UFC 228. We hope to see you all there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, that will conclude today's conference. Thank you all for joining, and you may now disconnect.